Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I'm James and this is Clearwater Fishing. If you want to learn how to catch more fish, you come to the right place. Smash that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, and you'll be well on your way. Today we're going to be talking about what we can do in the wintertime to help us catch more fish in the spring. Well, how do we do that? That's easy. We got to take care of our equipment's maintenance needs in the wintertime when we aren't or we can't go fishing. That way, when we get out there in the spring, our equipment will perform when we need it the most. Nothing is worse than getting out on the lake after waiting all winter and your reel doesn't work or your line's real brittle, your engine won't start, or maybe even you have a dead battery or two. I'm going to give you guys a few ideas of some maintenance needs that you may need to take care of this winter. That way you can get out there and catch you some more fish this spring. So let's start with some equipment that everybody has: rods, reels, and lures. So the first thing you may want to take a look at is your rods. You want to clean your rods, make sure their guides are free of scum or anything that might have got on them this year. Make sure the guides are clean. Inspect your guides, see that they're in good working shape, maybe the reel seat, the handle, that kind of thing. Inspect them, make sure they're in good shape and ready to perform next year. And if they're not, guess what you get to do? That's right, you get to buy a new rod. I gave you an excuse to buy some new equipment. All right, so the next thing we're gonna need to take care of is our reels. The outsides of my reels get really nasty and I'm pretty terrible at cleaning them. So don't be like me. Take some time this winter, clean your reels. It'll help you grip them. It'll make them look nicer. And you don't have to worry about people being like, ew, that's a gross reel. Okay, maybe they won't say that. But anyways, you also need to open up the inside, make sure there's no scum or anything like that in it. You need to oil it if necessary or grease it, depending on what kind of reel you have. Follow your manufacturer's recommendations. I think most reels use some grease or oil in them. So you want to make sure that you do that when you clean out the reel and make sure it's ready to go. So next, on any fishing reels that you feel like the line is getting pretty old, maybe pretty brittle, or maybe it just isn't as clear as it used to be, depending on the fishing line that you use, you may want to replace that fishing line while in winter. That way you have a fresh pool of fishing line. I don't really have any guidance on when to replace that fishing line, but if you were breaking off on fish or you feel like the line isn't very clear, those are definitely good reasons to get new fishing line and even try some new stuff if you want to. I use copolymer, and maybe some mono here and there. And if you want to upgrade to fluorocarbon, this is an excellent time to give that a shot. So last and not least, about the rods and reels here is the lures. If you're like me and you fish hard spring, summer, fall, and some in the winter, your tackle kind of gets strewn everywhere and it doesn't always necessarily get put back in the spot it's supposed to be. This is a good time of the year to go out, take all your tackle out, sort through it. Any stuff that's kind of junky, you can throw it away. If it's a lure that you really like, you can hang it up on the wall and go get you a new one and reorganize all of your tackle. That way, this spring, when you're looking for a particular lure, it's easier to find and you don't have to spend so much time hunting it while you're out there on the water. Also, in the video description, I do have a video on how I like to sort my tackle. Eventually, I'll expand on that and have a larger tackle selection, but it's a good beginner basis for storing your tackle if you don't have any ideas right now. So now that we've taken care of the rods and reels and the lures, let's talk about some of the boat maintenance type items we need to take care of this winter. First thing is if you have a 4-stroke engine, you're going to want to change the oil and oil filter. Follow your manufacturer's recommendations on how often to do that, but typically, most people use their equipment, enough to change it at least once a year. So you may want to change it this winter when you're not doing anything. I have a video on that. Be sure you check that out in the description. It is for a Mercury. So if you have a Yamaha or something like that, hey, check it out too. The steps are pretty general and you should be able to follow along. While we're on the subject of outboards, you may want to change your gear lube as well. Still follow your manufacturer's recommendations on when to change it, but wintertime is a great time to do this. I have a video on this process as well. You can check it out in the description below. And I'll give you a few tips and pointers along the way, so make sure you check that video out. So this winter, you're going to want to check on your batteries. If you have a lead acid system like I do, and you leave it plugged in on a charger this winter, you're going to want to check and make sure that charger is not drying out your batteries. Real simple process. You can find plenty of videos on YouTube on how to do that. But you want to check your batteries. You want to make sure that there's not any corrosion on the connections. And while you're at it, you may want to make sure all the connections are pretty solid, whether it's between the wire and the connector or the connector and the battery. Make sure everything's nice and tight and has a good connection. That way you don't have any issues with your batteries when you get out on the water this spring. Also, something to note, if you know that you have a battery at the end of the season that is getting kind of weak, the odds are it's not going to make it through winter. So you may want to go ahead to be prepared to replace that battery this winter. I know there's several different ways to revive batteries. You may want to give that a shot. But for the most part, I don't really like to tinker with stuff while I'm out on the water or be stranded for any reason. So I usually like to replace stuff and make sure it's in good working condition. Okay, so we're still on the boat and we've done some kind of boring stuff that not everybody gets super excited about. Let's try something a little more fun. Let's try updating our fish finders, make sure they're up to date to the latest firmware and softwares, update our maps, make sure all that stuff is spick and span and is up to date for the spring. Updating your fish finder is typically not that difficult of a chore, but it can be time consuming, especially when you have to get online and check to see if there's an update, put the update on a SD card, plug it into your fish finder and then update it and all that fun stuff. It can be time consuming, so make sure you give yourself plenty of time to do this. A way less fun job and a job that I particularly do not enjoy at all, but is definitely something you really should do this winter, is to check on your hubs. I do have a video on how to do that. I'll have it in the description below. The reason you want to do this is you don't really want to be stranded on the side of the road going to or coming home from a fishing trip. So definitely check on your hubs, and if there's anything that's questionable, you really want to take care of that this winter. While you're on the subject of hubs and you're down there looking at your hubs, you may want to do a close inspection on your tires. Make sure they're in good shape. They don't have any dry rot or any cracks or maybe a screw or something in there that hasn't caused them to leak down. You want to make sure they're in good enough condition to get you through all of next season. A tire that is often overlooked is the spare. You also want to check it out. Even though it's not being used, it could still be out there in elements or just getting a lot of sun on it. You definitely want to check that tire out as well. Make sure they're all pressured up and ready to go. That way, if you need your spare tire, you're not stranded and it's ready to go. Sticking to the trailer type subjects, you may want to check your lights on your trailer this winter. Just back your vehicle up, plug it in, check all the blinkers, make sure all the running lights work. If they're not working, typically it's a simple bulb that just needs to be replaced. If that's not the case, you may want to look at inspecting your wires and seeing if there's good connections on your wires. And if you can't really solve it, you may want to just rewire your trailer. I had a bad case like this myself. Mice got into the trailer, chewed up all the wires, and I had to rewire it. Yeah, not fun, but it's something I took care of in the wintertime when I wasn't fishing. So the last thing I have on my list here is you want to check before the last fishing trip of your season. You want to check on the boards on your boat. You want to make sure they're not rotten or falling apart or missing carpet, or for whatever type of boards you have. You want to make sure they're in good shape and can get you through next season. If not, go ahead and plan on replacing those and having them ready for the next time you go out on the water, and plan a little bit of time to spend at the ramp to replace those boards. Really, if you have a buddy with you, it doesn't take very long. If you have all the tools with you and have the boards ready to go, you just unbolt them and rebolt new ones on there. Not too hard of a process, but it does cut into your fishing days. So you want to do this preferably when the fish are not biting so good. That's typically late fall or early winter. All the stuff I talked about in this video is about saving you time this spring so you can spend more time fishing and less time fixing. Thank you guys for your support. If you haven't already, like this video, subscribe to my channel. I really do try to make great videos. That way you guys can learn all about fishing with me. Be sure you check out the videos I talked about. They're all in the description below. Once again, thank you guys for watching. But like always, until next time, get out there and go catch you some fish.